The next thing I'm going to do is get some celery out. Celery is actually, I believe, one of the only food items that takes more energy to eat it and digest it than it actually provides. So technically, if you ate nothing but celery, you would lose all sorts of weight and probably die, because it doesn't really have a lot in it. It doesn't have a lot in it, but it is good for flavoring. I'm going to go ahead and wash these off. I don't know if you saw, I actually just wiped off a little dead fruit fly or something. This is organic, so it's all natural, no pesticides, and therefore there's a pest every once in a while. So that's washing off your celery before using it is a small price to pay for not having chemicals in your food. So I've got these guys out now. I'm going to chop the tops off. Celery has a way of being one stalk, and then towards the top it splits up into a series of smaller stalks. I try to usually cut just below that split. Sometimes though, the celery, you can see, will have leaves at the top, and the leaves are actually pretty good for adding into recipes because they add a little bit more flavor. So you can always just, figure that out on your own, however you want. Cut the tops and the bottoms off. You'll see the part of the bottom is white, and then it has a gradation up to a green. So I want only the green part, really, so I've chopped off the white parts. Now celery is similar to carrots. You're going to cut them longwise. It kind of makes a scratching sound as you're cutting them longwise. And you probably know that celery has these strings in them that run lengthwise, which means that A, you can get those cut in your teeth if you're eating them raw, but B, it makes them kind of hard to cut sometimes, because you end up not cutting the string. You cut everything else but the string. So I can show you what I'm talking about. You see how we've got these strands in here that can give you a hard time when you're trying to cut it. So the first thing I would recommend in cutting celery is to try to make sure that you flip them over so the strands are on the top. The strands are on the upper side and not the lower side, because if the strands are at the bottom, for example, if you've got a celery stalk here and the strands are here and you're cutting it this way, that you may not end up cutting all the way through the strand, and then you end up with a long string of pieces of celery that are all cut except for one little bit which holds them together, and that's always annoying. So I'm going to go ahead and do all 4 of these at once. It doesn't take a lot of talent. You just need to make sure that you've got it under control. The thing about slicing that I didn't mention before is that when you're cutting a carrot or a celery like this, the motion is, you always have the tip of the knife on the cutting board, and the motion is a sliding motion. So it's like this versus chopping, right? So you slide it and it goes ahead, and that way you have more control over where the knife is going to land, because there's always a part of the knife that's touching the cutting board. So it's kind of a rocking motion, I think, is probably the better way to describe it. You can see that it's making a nice crunchy noise because celery is, it's mostly water, but it's got lots of crispiness to it. And you can see that I did not end up with any pieces of celery connected by strands, so that's good reason to cut your celery with the ribbed side up. So celery, carrot, onion,